Hey guys, good day. My name is Ashwin and I am the PTE tutor for Aussizz-PTE Parramatta. Now, if you tuned in to my previous live video, I did tell you guys about a few tips and tricks regarding the writings module in the PTE academic exam. Now, I also remember saying this: your writing will be better if you do applied practice, which basically means that the more you write, the better you will be added in the exam. So, I decided to actually put that in practice. So here I am today to explain to you and perhaps work out an example in front of you on how to tackle the Summarise Written Text subtask in the PTE writing module. Okay. Now you guys might see me move in and out of the screen a bit because I'm controlling my slides, just to give you guys a whole lot of explanation on how you can easily combat this activity. Okay. Alright guys. Now, Summarise Written Text is where you will get an enormous passage, right? So when I say enormous, don't take me wrong, it's really big. Trust me, you have a lot of information, a lot of description, a lot of example, a lot of names, and your task is to actually give a very succinct form of writing, okay? Now when I say succinct form of writing, my students often ask me, how many words am I supposed to write? Or how many tasks do I get? Now you'll get 2 to 3 tasks for the exam in respect to Summarise Written Text, and trust me guys, when I went for my exam, when I gave my exam for the PTE, I actually did not know how to do this activity until the time I went and I got my question. So it's during the exam when I got my question, I realized, wait, I can actually just take in the topic sentences and frame an answer. Makes much sense. So that's what I'm going to teach you guys today. How to find the necessary information and how to word it correctly so that your writing is graceful and you give a good answer for the Summarise Written Text. So, coming back to my question, how many words do you write for Summarise Written Text? Now, basically, PTE has given you a sort of liberty to write around 5 to 75 words. Now we've striked it down mainly because of the reason, once you write more than 50 words, your answer becomes a bit tacky. It becomes really complex. Because if you're writing a long answer, it's sure that you will create a lot of mistakes, because the main agenda is that you write only one sentence for an enormous passage that you get. So when I say you write one sentence, I mean that you only put a full stop at the very end of the sentence that you write. So how do you write a single piece of information? Or how do you condense such a large passage into a single piece of information? Simple. You use commas. You use something called as conjunctions, and you use something called as connecting words. Now, what are conjunctions? Guys, conjunctions can be easily remembered by remembering the acronym Fanboys. Now Fanboys are basically for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So these 7 guys are required to give an aesthetic sense to your answer and to connect different sentences together so that you ensure that you don't put too many commas. Now when you skim read the passage, or if you read the whole passage, you often realize that there are a lot of ideas that comes in. Sometimes they might start with an agreement, and when they reach the conclusion, they might give you a contradiction. Now, in those cases, it is your task to actually link 2 contradicting sentences. So for that, you use connecting words. Now there are a lot of connecting words, even though, unless, despite, although, all the more, furthermore, therefore, because. But for PTE's sake, let's keep it simple. Let's just try to use however when they add more information in a passage, and however when they contradict an information on the passage, and moreover when they add more information on a passage. So I believe I can do a much better job of explaining this to you guys if I actually load a question onto the screen. So without much further ado, let me introduce you to this monster passage. So at first look guys, yes, I know that you are scared because this is awfully a lot of written information, right? This is huge, and trust me, I can scroll down on the screen. There you go, that's a full passage. And your task is to make this into one sentence. So how do you do that? Let's just start reading the first line of the passage. Now the passage reads that most sea creatures from whales and dolphins to fish, sharks, shrimp, possibly even animals respond to sound, and many can produce it. They use it to hunt and hide, find mates and food, form and guide shoals, navigate blind, send messages, transmit warnings, establish territories, warn off competitors, stun prey, deceive predators, and sense changes in water conditions. Now that was a mouthful of information. So I could actually understand two things. One, they have actually listed different kinds of sea creatures when they've actually said dolphins to fish to sharks to shrimps. And when they actually, the second sentence tells you a lot of functions of the sound, right? They use sound for a lot of these functions. So this is how I'm going to condense this into a very short sentence. Alright? Most sea creatures, I'm just going to erase the whole thing. Use sound because you don't need to list it as shrimps or sharks because the sea creatures word sums up the whole categories of sea creatures that they are. Now the different functions, they use it to hunt and hide, find mates, form and food, form and guide shoals, navigate blind. Now what I can infer from this is that they use sound to live under the ocean. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so I'm going to erase the whole chunk and just write to sustain their lives under sea. So now that's one huge chunk of a passage just written in one sentence. Okay? Now let's go to the next passage. Marine animals click bones, grind teeth, use drum-tight bladders and special sonic organs to chirp, grunt and boom. Bletch gases vibrate special organs far from the silent deep oceans. Now I'm just going to leave it right there because that sounds to me awfully like a lot of descriptions. Now this is the major thought, guys. When you list down a one sentence summary, you're just writing the main points. No descriptions, no examples, no names or anything of that sort that points out to a description. So I'm just going to skim read this passage. Now one of the interesting thing is they've actually said that the throb of the mighty engines as 46,220 large vessels plow the world shipping lanes. Scientists say that the background noise in the ocean has increased roughly by 15 decibels in the past 50 years. It may not sound like much in oral terms, but it is enough according to many marine biologists to mask the normal sound of the ocean life into business. Again, this is a lot of information that is irrelevant because one thing that I can actually understand here is that scientists have come to a conclusion that there is a lot of noise that is generated by other human activities. So that's what I can find from the whole lot of descriptions that they given here. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay? I'm just going to erase all that. I'm just going to write so that's my second point. Now this is what I can understand from that whole lot of description. They've said that there is a lot of noise generated because of a lot of human activities like underwater shipping lanes and whatnot. So the main idea is that undersea noise pollution is on the rise. Now let's go to the last paragraph. Undersea noise pollution is like the death of 1,000 cuts, says Sylvia Earle, Chief Scientist of the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Each sound in itself may not be a matter of critical concern, but taken all together, the noise from shipping, seismic surveys and military activity is creating a totally different environment that existed even 50 years ago. That high level of noise is bound to have a hard sweeping impact on the life in the sea. Okay. So now from this, I can actually summarize it and say that undersea noise pollution is causing a hard sweeping impact on life in the sea. Okay. So now what we've done is we've actually summarized 3 different monstrous paragraphs into just 3 lines of information. Now this is how I'm going to combine this into a sentence so that it makes sense. Okay. Now I'm going to use Fanboys. So any of these conjunctions like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, and also I'm going to use some connecting words. So this is how probably I'll frame my answer. Okay. So most sea creatures use sound to sustain their lives under sea. I'll put a comma, space, and but. And I'll write scientists are of the opinion that undersea noise pollution is on the rise. Moreover, comma, this causes a negative impact on life in the sea. So that's how I've actually tamed that monster of a paragraph and brought it to just 3 sentences. So most sea creatures use sound to sustain their lives under sea, but scientists are of the opinion that undersea noise pollution is on the rise. Moreover, this causes a negative impact on the life in the sea. Have I used too much of conjunctions here? No, I just used one conjunction, or the fanboy, which is but, because I was contradicting it. Now after contradicting, the scientists added by saying that when you take the noise pollution together, it is actually causing a lot of impact in the sea. Now because they added on a point, I've used moreover. Now I've used the correct amount of commas. And this probably will get me a good score in the PTE. Now there are different versions of this answer that you can come up with, but the main points remain the same. This is what PTE wants you to do. So instead of writing a huge complex summary of around like say 50 or 65 words, I've written a summary of hardly, let's say, let me just count these words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 30, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. It's 20, 20, around 34 words. So that's how you should do this activity. Now guys, I have worked out this answer in a notepad. And that's how I want each of you to practice. Because I was taking some extra bit of a time to make sure that I was not, to the best of my knowledge, I haven't made any sort of a spelling mistake. And I was making sure that I just used one fanboy and one connecting word so that my sentences does not, look stacky and it has a good flow to it. Now this is how you do each and every question that you come in. So in this scenario, there was very limited information in the middle paragraph, but the main gist of the information that you needed for the answer was in the introduction and the conclusion. So skim read both to get an idea of what the passage is about. Arrive at an answer. Now if you skim read, I'm pretty sure that out of the 10 minutes that you get for this activity, you will be able to do this in 3 to 4 minutes. Now use the rest of the time to skim read the middle part of the passage to make sure that you covered all the points that they need you to. And just use one conjunction and one connecting word to give a good graceful answer. So this is how you do a summarized written text activity. So guys, this is all for today's session. Now remember, always do keep practicing, because the more you do, the more adept you will be doing this activity. You will know where the sentences are. That's the only thing that will stick out of that enormous passage. And best of all, if you do practice a lot, no matter how tough the question may be, you will still find an answer. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Now that's all for me today. Now just a reminder, guys, now we have a lot of our migration clients as well. So just to let you guys know, dear migration clients, our Sydney office has been moved to a new address. Okay, now the Sydney office has been moved to level 1 suite 2, 350 Kent Street in the city. Okay, now we will be trying our level best to inform you guys about this move. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great afternoon, guys. Thank you.